department. Well, yes, I've just said that there are several measures of support for student families. Just have a look at those. But, you know, when young man thinks you have to buy this and that, you have to live somewhere, there are many issues to be addressed, but best not to postpone such fundamental matter as making family and having children. It's that sector, you know, I see Zvezda. Is it okay, Mr. President? Yeah, sure. Good afternoon, Konstantin Kokoveshnikov, Zvezda TV. You've spoken about attempts at crushing Russia's economy, but I can't help asking about the unmanned vessels strikes by Ukrainians against certain vessels. You know, apart from critical energy infrastructure, there are attempts to strike Russia's export vessels. Several people have spoken up on that, in particular, leader of Turkey, President Erdogan, a woman sitting next to me. She spoke about that, you know, just a couple of days ago. There was a strike against a vessel in the Black Sea, in the Mediterranean Sea. There were several victims, several people dead. And should there be a blockade of the Kaliningrad region, if that occurs to someone in Europe, what's going to be done? Well, let's start with the last part of the question. Let's hope this will not happen, but if similar threats arise, we will eliminate those threats, and everyone needs to understand that such actions will simply bring about never before seen escalation that would escalate this conflict to an unprecedented level and expand it to a large-scale military conflict. Everyone needs to understand that. As far as strikes against our civilian infrastructure are concerned, you represented a media that deals with the military. You are well aware that these strikes are something we respond to, carrying out strikes that, in terms of their scale and power, are simply far superior to what the Kiev authorities are doing. But as far as damages are concerned to civilian infrastructure, to non-competence, well, that is something that is deserving of strictest condemnation, and we always respond. We are receiving news that another oil tanker has been attacked in the Mediterranean. Yes, you know, they're pursuing some utilitarian purposes. They want to raise insurance premiums, but this will not bring about the result they are desirous of. This is not going to disrupt the supplies. This would only create additional threats, and Russia is certainly going to respond. Bashkiria, yeah, sure, go ahead. Good afternoon, Mr. President. Thank you for this opportunity to ask you a question. First, let me give you the greetings from the population of our republic. And on behalf of Bashkortostan, we would like to thank you for the attention you are paying to Bashkortostan, to our region. Right now, Tajikistan is building a Russia-Tajik industrial park on the Russian side. This project is operated by Bashkortostan. So my question is as follows: what other friendly nations can give a venue to similar projects where Bashkortostan's example can prove to be useful? Thank you. Well, we've been building a similar infrastructure in Egypt for some time. In the Nile area, there's a very good site there. and our colleagues from the Ministry of Trade and Industry and our counterparts in Egypt are paying a great deal of attention to developing this site. I think this is something that should bring about very good and positive economic results both for Russia and for Egypt. There's a number of other projects we're contemplating in other partner nations. Your example will certainly, your experience will certainly be used. I do not know what is the current state of this industrial park in Tajikistan, but I'm confident that given its well-developed technological and industrial base, Bashkortostan is going to play a pivotal role and will achieve all the tasks that are set before themselves. And I'll ask the government to provide you with the requisite support should that prove to be necessary. Yes. Please, well, if there's too much noise, we'll have to bring this to an end because it's not going to be possible to communicate with one another. Kokoshnik. Okay, let's see what this kokoshnik is about. Well, kokoshnik is something women wear. Good afternoon, Mr. President. Sorry, I'm very, very nervous. I didn't know. There's a young man with this placard which says kokoshnik, but you are wearing one. So, yes, women first. I would like to pick up where my colleague, the 13-year colleague from the first row, has asked. This is about you driving through Moscow without any external size, as it were. So do you think Moscow has been beautified? Has it become better? Because many roads are being built. The Moscow diameter has been built. So do you think there are fewer traffic jams? And secondly, what's going to happen to cars in the future? Will we all have to change our cars for Russian-built cars? I've been saving up for foreign brands. I've spent 5 years, and right now, after the utility fee has been introduced, I will have to spend another 5 or 6 years to save some money for a new car. So what do you think? Let's start with the utility fee. Well, let's be upfront what this is about. The increase of the utility fee as well as rising prices. Well, we're certainly talking about strong cars of more than 160 horsepower. The government fully understands that. It mostly concerns citizens with the middle level or very high level of income in big cities, most of all. And it's clear, and we've got to be clear about that right now. This is due to the attempt by the Finance Ministry to secure another source of income for achieving a very noble, lofty task, that is technological development, technological sovereignty and it certainly helps our car industry. You said, well, probably foreign cars are becoming increasingly expensive. Probably we should contemplate buying Russian cars. Well, I can't help recommending some Russian car. It would be very strange for me to suggest to you that you should buy something built abroad. But I do hope this measure is not going to stay in effect forever and that the choice our citizens have access to will get wider, either as our incomes grow or as the fiscal burden decreases. Moscow, well, yes, we're all proud of Moscow, and rightly so. Sergei Sobyanin is demonstrating huge results. Well, I think it's 12 million people who live here permanently, plus another 3 million of those who visit Moscow on a regular basis because they work here. So 15 million people, that's what Moscow is home to on a daily basis. And of course, the issue of transport. This is a task that has been addressed in a systemic manner. It applies to underground, to roads, to conjunctions. On the whole, Sobyanin's team is succeeding in addressing the tasks in this field. Of course, there are some issues that still persist, and when I drive across Moscow, I say that, I ride without a motorcade. Well, that doesn't mean that, there is no siren, but sometimes we turn off those sirens before work and after. Of course, there's still a huge flow of cars, especially at the center of Moscow. There is a great number of cars driving across Moscow's streets. That means that we should not rest on our laurels. A lot has been done, but we have to keep this issue under constant control. Mr. President, we've spoken about those who are suffering from diabetes. Since there's no communication, it's impossible to surveil the level of sugar in blood, but there is also a problem with medicines. Yes, I've seen that. This is but a fraction of what we have selected. There are people who suffer from cancer, from kidney failure, or high blood pressure, epilepsy. So this is not the exhaustive list. Dmitry Odstavnik from Sverdlovsk region. Good afternoon, Mr. President. Odstavnik, city of Krasnotulinsk, right now, no more preferential deliveries of medicines are carried out in Krasnotulinsk. This has been a regular occurrence since October. The clinics explained to us that they've run out of funding. As Chernomyrdin used to say, there's never been anything like this before, and there we are again. So I'd like to ask you to give instructions to the officials to provide our citizens with medicines under the special preferential program. Yes, indeed, there are many messages like that. I read them before coming here yesterday and the day before yesterday, and I spoke to the government and to the relevant ministries, and I assured me that everything that is within the remit of the federal ministries and the medical insurance system, well, all of the funds have been wired to the regions. There have been no delays whatsoever, whereas you're asking me this question, and I've certainly seen similar messages. Dmitry Peskov has given me a whole pile of such things. So this is about how this is organized on the ground in the regions of Russia. This is about the logistics. This is about timely decisions that are required to enter into contracts on the delivery and on the distribution of these medicines throughout the networks of pharmacies. But I can promise you that we will have a look into what is happening over there in Krasnotulinsk. I do hope this issue is going to be fixed. But on the whole, there are also concerns that state-run pharmacies are shutting down. And this is a source of concern. And that means that medicines at lower prices, at subsidized prices, are not being available. But I can tell you that even in private pharmacies, there have to be subsidized medicines available, and they have to be available at fixed prices. And this is very important. I would like to ask the competent units of the healthcare ministry to follow that closely and to keep tabs on that. Moreover, we have to pay greater attention to developing pharmacy networks through the so-called mobile pharmacies. This is a practice that is becoming increasingly widespread across the provinces. There are also other spots where certain medicines can be made available and can be sold. This solves part of the problem. And of course, we can do that through the Post of Russia. So on the whole, we have an understanding of how to address these issues, but we have to do that, translate those theories into practice, and in your particular case, I think we will be able to fix that pretty quickly. Let's work with the audience.
Выглядит красиво, написано СССР, а дальше TF1.
SSSR, and then TF1. First, the person with the placard SSSR, and then colleague with TF1. Good afternoon, Mr. President. Good afternoon. Can I give a present to you? And then a couple of questions. Well, just explain to us what this is and we'll take that from you afterwards. This is a book which is called Heart of Asia. It's 126 Russian poets who have been praising Persia and Tajikistan. And, you know, there is a dedication here to you, starting from Zhukovsky, 1843, and until present days. This is an anthology of best poems, Russian poets who have been praising Persia and Tajikistan. You love that. I know that.
I have a next question. Please, Mr. President, tell me, you really appreciate Marhayam poetry. We are descendants, those people in Tajikistan, Persia, were descendants of Marhayam. Could we ask you, Mr. President, of creating a monument to honor these great scientists, or create a center in the name of Amar Khayyam? This is a good idea. Thank you very much. We will think about this. Thank you for this insight, as it is used to say. TF1, please. Our French colleagues, please.
For TF1 French TV. Mr. President, one of my compatriots, the Frenchman Laurent Vinatier, has been put in jail for 3 years for an administrative offense. Now the Russian justice system is raising the issue of espionage, which worsens the situation.
Please, could you repeat the name of the person? And who is that? I have never heard about him. Right. Who is that?
He was a researcher in Russia, and he wasn't registered as a foreign agent. He didn't know that the law changed. Well, he was put in jail for 3 years for this administrative offense. His parents and children are deeply worried right now. We know there are huge tensions between France and Russia, but as the new year approaches, can his family hope for a presidential pardon or an exchange and his return to France? Thank you.
You know, I know nothing about this case. This is the first time I hear it, but I promise you that I will try to find out the information about this, and if there is any chance to solve this issue in a positive way. If Russian legislation allows to do that, we'll take all the necessary efforts to do that. But I cannot give you any specifics because I don't know anything about this, but I will get information about this, and I promise you that. Please, let's continue. I hear someone with a mobile screen. Please introduce yourself. Hello, Mr. President. My name is Valentin Petukhov. I'm a techno blogger. I am speaking to my audience for 15 years about Russian and foreign technologies. I represent many people because many people follow my networks. We're working actively on import substitution, the creation of the technological sovereignty of our country. One of the most meaningful events this year was the introduction of national Max messenger. There is a market of messengers, and there are many messengers that are being used by people. So my question is the following one. The creation of the national messenger, was that important and was that necessary? Can Max messenger truly be competitive comparing to other messengers? And what do you think about such competitions? As a blogger, I would like to ask you to follow my channel in Max on technologies. I know that you know a lot in this topic, and I have remembered that today is my father's birthday, the 19th of December. I would like to use this opportunity to congratulate all the people that have a birthday today. There are hundreds of people, and we echo your congratulations to your father. As for the Max messenger and the competition, we always need competition. I'm sure that there will be competition. As for the Telegram and other messengers, there is just one issue: complying with the Russian legislation. The problem of these messaging applications is that the leadership of the countries where they created were introducing restrictions, not allowing them to comply with our legislation. This led to the slowdown of such applications. Well, you know it. I'm sure that Max is also going to be competitors. Was it necessary? Of course it was. I would like to point out that in general, we had all the technological instruments apart from a messaging application, and it is truly important that Russia has reached full technological sovereignty. Russia is one of the 3 countries that has such sovereignty. First is US, then China, and now it is Russia. Besides, there are several services that can be provided to our citizens through Max national system. Such services could not be provided using foreign systems. First of all, due to security reasons. This is a necessary step, and I agree with you that there should be competitions. We have received many questions about healthcare through Max application, and many of the issues were solved even before the direct line. Around 500,000 questions were received from Max application, many from the youth and the children. When in Ulyanovsk we live almost in the 19th century, when your functionaries are going to listen to you and listen to the people, please, could you take a note of this? We need to understand what is this about. These are text messages. We should stop speaking about Ukraine. We should solve our own problems, speak about our own problems. I absolutely agree with you. Well, there are several videos from the youth and from children. Mr. President, hello. My name is Daniil, and I'm at the International Literature Forum. There are many adults, and would like to ask you about the trend of books being read by the youth and by children. Usually kids prefer very short videos. What should we do about that? Is there a book that, according to you, every Russian citizen should read? Thank you. Unfortunately, the reduction in the reading of books is the problem all over the world. Some time ago, we were proud that the USSR was the country where people read the most. Right now, there are many people that read books. But unfortunately, as I already said, all over the world, the number of people that read books is reducing. What should we do about that? First of all, it depends on school, on family, parents. We need to pay more attention in this regard to children. We need to maintain competition with tablets and modern technological means. I'm speaking about parents and maintaining this competition with this technological means, because this is very accessible and this is very interesting, and we need to find a way to make books interesting for children. If we are creative about this, it is possible, even if it's complex. I've already mentioned it once, but I would like to say once again. I've spoken to a priest, and I asked him, when people die, what they say mostly. You know what was the answer? They say that they paid not enough attention to children. I don't want to personify anything. It's nothing specific. This is not a secret. But this was the overall message, and regards everything: education, providing some guiding principles, values. This young boy asked me about a book that everyone should read. Well, the world literature, Russian literature, classics, modern literature. There are many topics to be discussed that are very useful. But the main thing is that the book should create the conscience, the idea of the world. But it's very hard for me to name a specific book. Another question that we received through Max from Neatulina Diana: what are your working hours? What is the plate of your car? Actually, I don't know if there is a plate. Actually, I just take it and go somewhere. As for the working hours, well, I keep late hours, and sometimes it's getting even later and later. Well, I'm not going to say, because it is the violation of our labor code, and this is not correct. It's you need to be fit, you need to go to bed on time, and I call everyone to such a regime of work. A question from Victoria. It's to you and to Pavel. Let's watch it. Mr. President, hello. My name is Victoria. I really find it really great that what Pavel Zarubin does. When Pavel will go to pension, I will take over, and please be the president till the time, and I will work with you and cover your work. I would like to congratulate you on the new year and wish you good health and always make right decisions. Victoria, thank you very much. I congratulate you on New Year as well, and I wish you all the best, success in school, and wish you reliable friends by your side. Well, let's keep Pavel for some time. He's quite a young man. I'll ask Pavel, I'm sure he will agree, to take you for training. I'm sure he can do a lot of good things. He's quite young, and when I will go on a well-deserved rest and you will be trained by Pavel, it will help you to become a journalist and a university, and you will work together with Pavel, even at the federal level. This is what we're truly going to do. But still, I'm not a pensioner right now. I'll keep asking questions. So what is really important for every one of us? Recently, you have spoken about the opportunities and the threats of the artificial intelligence. You can solve any task without even thinking, using your mind. Another message from Max Messenger. What can be the balance between the modern technologies and the tasks of developing intelligence in children? Please, we'll be grateful for your answer, and please come for the 1st September of 2026 to the opening of our school. This is a relevant issue, very complex regarding the problem itself. There is a great volume of information. There are new instruments of solving tasks today. You can use the capacities of artificial intelligence. In fact, danger appears that teenagers, students will not try to find the decisions themselves, but as Pavel said, they will just press a button and receive the necessary answer. This is a complex task, so it will depend on the organization of the education process in schools and in universities, in all the educational institutions. It means this is how we should organize the education process, so that all of this was done and the tasks were solved at schools, in classrooms. So the tasks were posed in classroom before the students and the pupils, and they were solved by a specific student or pupil, so that they need to use their brain, so that they would think, so that the development of new technologies would make that part of our society, part of our population would be thinking about what they're doing, and the other part would follow a very simple path, would use technologies, press correct buttons, but would degrade from the intellectual point of view. This is something that we should avoid, and this is the task of the education system, as well as the task for families. Well, I have nothing to add to that. Let's return to the audience. Spas, please. Oh, forgive me, but it's very important for us. Spas TV channel, thank you for recognizing the Satanist movement as an extremist one. There are still occult services, esoterics that are provided in our country. You can see them in social networks, in books. There are tarot cards that are being sold in shops. And last year, people spent more than 2.3 trillion rubles on such services. The Spas TV channel made a movie about the magicians and sorcerers. Where we spoke about many true stories and about this business, but still people keep going to sorcerers. Is it possible to introduce a ban on magical and occult advertisement that contradict your decree on the preservation of our traditions and values, and the decision of the Supreme Court on the prohibition of the Satanist movement. As for the legislation, the decision of the Supreme Court, on the Constitution Court, everyone must follow them. I will have a look at it without any doubt, and I will instruct the relevant agencies to follow this up closely, to avoid the violations at the highest legislative level and the level of the court decisions. I truly agree with you. Satanism and occult services, sorceries, this is nonsense. That is something that confuses people, brings them to darkness, and affects them greatly, affects their psyche, their morale, and we need to fight against it, but do it carefully, without violating human rights. Your colleagues have mentioned it as well. We shouldn't be excessive about these restrictions. We need an analysis and timely decisions. This is what we're going to do, together with you, the representatives of the media, like your media, the representatives of our traditional religions, as well as with the Russian Orthodox Church.
I haven't taken lots of questions from this sector. I can see auto radio. Nadezhda Romantsova, auto radio. Mr. Putin, a question to you. It's considered to believe that the generation of 90s was lost for the nation. And what about the current generation? Do you feel the support coming from the young ones? You know, I cannot agree with the statement that this was a lost generation for this country. You know, the issue of fathers and sons is an eternal one, and you know, the well-known novel by Turgenev titled Sons and Fathers, Fathers and Sons, and at all times everybody keeps saying that, well, when we were young and in our days, in the days of our youth, things were different, etc. Now, after I graduated from the university, I enrolled on the special services. I was recruited by special services, and I joined the external intelligence service of the USSR. So the verification of the aptness of recruits, whether they were able to work in an intelligence service. One of the tests there was putting people in dangerous, risky situations, stressful situations, so that they can manifest themselves. Well, in a critical situation, people manifest and show their true worth and face. And now we live in the context of a special military operation. We have 700,000 people in the fighting area, mostly young ones. Many of them are from that generation of 1990s. How are they showing their face and showing themselves? Naran, have you an idea about how these young ones show themselves? Pass the mic. Well, these are the children of 1990s, and they're heroes. They are the backbone, and you can take them as a model. So this is the answer with respect to the young generation. Yesterday we analyzed the huge array of inputs that we received in the view to the calling, and lots of questions were submitted by young ones, which means that they are more active, they have a more active position than previous generations. And I can see a person in a grey sweater. You don't have any note or sign. Good afternoon, Andrei Belov, Ulyanovsk, Media 73 Point. Are you? The question is about transportation, aviation and public transport. Next year, Aviastar factory turns 50 years. It turned out AN-124 Ruslan jumbo jets, and now it works on a new contemporary make of airplane. Do we need actually, to your mind, a modern cargo aircraft similar to Ruslan? And the second part of my question is about the public transport. For Ulyanovsk, it's a huge problem, and we discussed this issue with Governor Ruskich. Will there be any specific support for Ulyanovsk's public transport system and procurement with the help of the federal government? And actually, we have a program in place to provide for the procurement of public transport for different regions. And that was always viewed also inter alia as a way of supporting our automobile industry. As regards Ulyanovsk, we'll discuss that with the governor. Discussing what the most acute things are. I cannot answer this question right now. We will discuss that with the governor, rest assured, and if need be, we will provide necessary support. As regards Aviastar aircraft construction factory, this is a very relevant and acute issue, quite important for us, and we have a very good and long-standing tradition of aircraft construction, both in the military sector and civilian aircraft. Well, historically, our civil aviation and aircraft manufacturing was always a follow-up to the defense hardware and defense equipment and aircraft. And the performance of these aircraft is different, and the consumption of fuel, etc. Their parameters differ, but we always took pride in our Tupolev, Yakovlev and Ilyushin makes. But originally these were primarily and initially military machines, and what we need now, for sure, is our state-of-the-art modern homemade aircraft, and the growth of air tickets prices is due to the shortage of the number of aircraft that we have. And those international manufacturers that used to supply aircraft to us decided to quit cooperation because of some political reasons. And that is bad for them because it subverts their reputation. But this is good for us because it makes us be on our road, work harder, and take advantage of the capability of our market. And, in the past, I spoke with the incumbent deputy prime minister who headed Aeroflot in the past, and I told him that it was necessary to buy more domestically made aircraft than import. planes. And actually, now we have come up with MS-21 that we're rolling out. It is a very good machine, perfectly suitable for international markets. And Superjet 100 also is another make that we have fully localized. And we need our own Russia-made regional aircraft too. You asked whether we need those jumbo jets similar to Ruslan. Yes, we do. Il-76 will be modernized, but we need that. And this is high-tech manufacturing requiring very long production chains and level of cooperation to be profound enough. There are some additional pending issues to be resolved, but we will handle that. And definitely wish Aerostar all the best, and we will assist this enterprise. Mr. President, we are approaching the 4 hours threshold. Let's give the floor to Mr. Peskov. We are now nearing the 4 hours of live broadcast, and it's kind of record-setting time. So I suggest we should round off and wind up. There'll be just a set of quick-fire questions, just a quick-fire one. In hundreds of years, school children will study this time, this epoch. What would you place in the time capsule for that to describe or depict our era, to stand for this era? Well, I think that all of us think about the future of their children and grandchildren and the future of our country. I also do. I know what I should be telling. Probably several things in a row. Well, I'll try my best. We'll take a pen and we jot down us living in Russia in this incessant, infinite flux of time in the 20th and the 21st century, received everything done by our predecessors with gratitude, by our ancestors with gratitude. We lived as everybody at all times with our routine needs, but we were not at a standstill. We made headway, we struggled, we worked, we fought, and we tried to resolve the issues that our time, our epochs set forth ahead of us, in front of us. And we thought about our time and about future and about you. And if you're holding our message right now, that means that you also feel yourselves being part of our joint, shared, infinite flux of time, our common shared flux of time. And you are aware of the connection of times. And this is very important. Congratulations. That means that we also, as we worked and struggled, did not live our lives in vain, and we succeeded in many respects, and we wish you to be blessed with luck always and be happy, and your kids and grandchildren and grandchildren be proud of you as we are proud of our fathers, grandfathers and grandfathers. Full stop. Mr. President, are you collecting information or material for future memoirs, as other world leaders know? I just think that one should keep working, because memoirs would assess those who write them. But if people consider it appropriate, let them assess me and my work and the work of my team and all the people that are behind me. You've been telling about the achievements of the country. What about your personal achievements? My personal achievements are inseparable from the achievements of this country. This is what I live by. I work day and night. Have you ever, once in a lifetime, sent a message by a messenger? Have you done a video circle and sent it to your nearest and dearest? No, never. So I saw your flat at Kremlin's. It's quite bad. An empty fridge, just one Ryazhenka dairy drink. Where is coziness? You know, all that was designed by the previous head of operations unit under President Yeltsin, and no repair has happened since. Actually, I think we should ask Mr. Borodin. That was done under the standards of maintenance and operations. So that was designed to provide opportunity for rest and recreation in the daytime. I doubt President Yeltsin spent nights there, but I live there. This is just the coincidence of circumstances. I'm satisfied with everything. This is first thing, and secondly, you know, comfort and coziness are created by people. So when my family members appear there, I just feel cozy. Do you have any professional deformations or distortions, professional distortions? Well, yes, as any other man, fully submerged in the work. Which moment or development of this year you memorize in the first place, and which would you like to forget? Well, with respect to which I memorize in the first place and recall in the first place, it is very hard to say. But I think that the new year that we celebrated last time happened 2 to 3 weeks ago. And this is not an overstatement. You know, everything is so compressed, and we have had many positive developments since then. And at the Defense Ministry college meeting, I spoke about the development of our armed forces that have become the most combat efficient in the world, given the advances in the strategic arms that we have had. And these are major landmarks in the life of our country, not the armed forces alone. And we have been able to preserve the resilience of our economy, and many decisions were made to this effect. And these are positive developments, without a doubt. And speaking about what I'd like to forget, well, I have my own view on that. If you want to forget something, that means that there was a failure, or you did something in a bad way, and you should not forget that. You should rectify your mistakes and correct your mistakes and make conclusions. Which trait of your character you dislike? Is there one? Well, listen. People just wonder. I'll try to respond. My life is, you know, absolutely conspicuous in front of the cameras, and speaking what I like and what I dislike in myself would give rise to rumors and idle prattle. And do you have a true faithful friend? What is true friendship? It's a matter of notions. In the first instance, true friendship means mercilessness. And in my situation, you know, a person, some people around me are tempted to try to lay their hand on that, and I can state with a firm that those people whom I believe to be my friends, and I have such people, believe in a very reserved way, and I'm not ashamed of them. What motivates you and makes you move forward, and what keeps you in high spirits? What motivates me and makes me move on, it's about the trust of people. And when I hear some things, well, some of the things sound in a jarring way, and others are inspiring, and they are motivating. Confidence and faith in the future of Russia, which is what prevents me from losing heart. What is the best thing for a boy aged 13? Excel at studies, or love fatherland or motherland, or anything else? Well, he should love his mother, first of all. And this is not an irony. I once again would turn to Naram. He needn't speak up. I will say everything for him. We had a discussion the day before yesterday when I invited him to come to the Kremlin. And previously, when he had made a report, I had asked colleagues to ask what outstanding issues are there, including some routine things and day-to-day life-related things. And we talked with him. And Ram may forgive me. I think he'll forgive me. I just asked him, what would you like? And he responded, my mom is elderly and she has some health conditions and problems. Will you please help my mother? And such an attitude towards one's mother is not merely an attitude of one person to another person. It's a mindset, a mentality. So people with this attitude become heroes of Russia.
And what about love at first sight? Does such a thing exist? I think it does. Where does motherland start from? For you personally? For me personally? Well, it starts with my parents. Man certainly needs to believe in something. What do you believe in? And God Almighty, who is with us and who'll never forsake Russia. The number of messages has exceeded 3 million, which is unprecedented. So the last question, what will Russia look like in 200 years? Will it exist even? Well, 200 years. Well, I don't know how it happened, but you've asked me to project a message hundreds of years into the future, which is very hard to forecast because given the growing technological component, given the increased influence of AI, given our accomplishments in genetics and biotechnologies, it's impossible to forecast how human consciousness is going to evolve, whether borders will be there in future, hundreds of years hence. So it's kind of a message from us to our descendants. Well, I try to do that based on how things stand right now, but as for what is going to happen in 200, 200 years ago, well, 200 years, that's not that long because the Bolshoi Theater is celebrating its 250th anniversary. So for Russia, 200 years is not that big of a time stretch. I'm hopeful that the country will be highly educated. And this high level of education of our citizens is going to serve as a foundation for high technological development. With the help of these technologies, the country will be capable to address all the tasks in front of us, be that in economy, in healthcare, social policies. It'll be living in peace, prosperity, having built ties with other countries on the basis of mutual respect between itself and its partners and all the actors of international environment. Thank you. Well, yes, just a moment. I promise this is not the end. Well, please, please. No noise, please. Let's go sector by sector. Ichu, what's that? What's that about? Mr. President, my name is Anna Rigin. I'm from Yakutia. Ichu is translated from Yakutian as it's cold. We know that Yakutia is a cold place, but we have very warm hearts, and you know that better than anyone. So my question to you is as follows, Mr. President. I'm terribly nervous. I've been waiting for this chance to ask my question. In the Arctic, in Yakutia, the electricity tariff for hospitals, schools, and other social facilities has grown 10 times over the last 4 years, from 5 to 50 rubles per kilowatt hour, which is an enormous burden, given the fact that the efficiency is not growing at all. I'm terribly. No. Take it easy. Go ahead. But unfortunately, there is a high level of incidents, and you know that in the Arctic, in the north, an accident is almost a catastrophe. So is it possible to add the special allowance to us, which used to be in place in the Russian high north and the Far East? You've been to Yakutia. Maybe you'll be in Yakutia in winter, and with due respect, we'd like to interview you, and if you come to see us, I'll be happy to be the one interviewing you. Thank you very much. Thank you for your words of appreciation, for the words of thanks to the Kremlin pool. Yes, as for us, the special allowance will take that into account. Your economy is growing. It requires an increasing volume of electricity at competitive prices. The coal-based generations is developing, but other sources can be contemplated as well. And we are doing the work already in settlements and cities where the requisite infrastructure has to be set up, both social infrastructure and economic infrastructure. I'm not going to go into detail, but we know the problem and we'll certainly look into that. We'll work on green sources of energy without forgetting, however, either gas-based generation or oil-based generation. Another, fuel oil, of course, is not that efficient as a source of energy, but we'll certainly use different sources of energy, and will also increase the capacity of the grid. We'll certainly keep Yakutia in mind, because Yakutia is the treasure trove of mineral wealth, which still waits its hour to be extracted. Rest assured. And I've jotted it down. We'll look into that. Artificial intelligence. I think that's relevant. Go ahead, please. Good afternoon, Mr. President. 360 TV channel, Regina Orekova. You've spoken about AI today, and you said it will not allow Russia's dependence on foreign neural networks. Does it mean that ChatGPT and other foreign neural networks are going to be prohibited? Is there going to be a special type of regulation in the field? And second question, if you'll allow that, you said that love at first sight exists. Mr. President, are you in love? Yes, I am. That's the answer to the second part of your question. Whereas the first part of your question is concerned, I can tell you that we're not going to prohibit anything. There is Russian legislation. If there are certain violations of the legislation, then restrictions are put in place, but we're not going to introduce any bans or anything like that. Tomsk, please. Yes, please go ahead. Mr. President, good afternoon. Tomskaya, Vremya, Gulnara, Motobaeva. Tomsk is Russia's youth capital. I'd like to use this time on air. Those who have not yet voted on our city, please vote, because every seventh person who lives in Tomsk is a student, so a round of applause for Tomsk, please. Tomsk is indeed a city of students. Have you voted, Mr. President, if that's no secret? For sure, we'll do. Well, we'll be hopeful. Well, even though we've got lots of young people, still we are lacking in blue collars, we are lacking in seamstresses, drivers, and a number of other blue-collar jobs. Mr. President, is the government doing anything to rebuild the prestige of blue-collar work? And what about AI? Maybe we don't need seamstresses or drivers because AI is going to supplant those. Well, I'm offended by your question, but because I think we are working systemically on preparing highly qualified workers, and this is done in a systemic fashion. The worker profession is becoming very prestigious. It's becoming increasingly complicated and sophisticated, and that's why you can get that in vocational training. We've got also specialized education. We are going to hold competitions, will increase the quality of education. We will fuse internship with education. We'll try to engage businesses. Incidentally, they are the ones who are most interested in young professionals coming to work for them, and they've jumped on this bandwagon a long time ago, trying to attract young professionals. There's a whole set of measures, a whole range of those, and we'll only expand them. Unfortunately, we're getting breaking news. This is very important for one of those who is here. TASS is reporting that the girlfriend of Kirill Bazhenev has agreed to your proposal. She'll marry you. Well, Kirill has been asking the question about the material component of life. Well, of course, it's important. It's the right thing to do for the gentleman. He is the one who is supposed to contribute to addressing these material. Well, you know, we'll take a hat and we'll do some collection, well, at least for your wedding. Another Ukraine. There's another question. Yes, we've covered Ukraine, but we have not yet covered another Ukraine. Good afternoon, Mr. Ukraine. Network media, another Ukraine. This is a network movement. Of course, my question is about Ukraine because it applies directly to our motherland, Russia. Trump has said that Zelensky is using war in order to avoid holding elections. And in response to that, Zelensky said he is ready to hold elections in 60 or 90 days, which is cynical lies, because Zelensky has destroyed his country. He decided to choose arbitrariness and violence over democracy. Mr. President, you said that a referendum has to be held on de jure recognition of new territories in Ukraine as per Ukrainian constitution. How can a referendum be held in a country where a gang has usurped the power, destroying democracy and everything else? Because for a referendum to be held, first constitutional order has to be re-established, the ban on 18 parties has to be lifted, a law has to be introduced on on stopping the prosecution of those who spoke against the coup d'etat, because the amnesty was adopted after 2014, which basically pardoned those who were the ones initiating the coup d'etat and even the violence they employed for their own self-interest. Electoral law has to be re-established as well, because half of Ukrainian population has fled from Zelensky. That's 18 million people. According to the estimates, where are they supposed to vote? Sanctions have to be lifted against Ukrainian citizens, and the revocation of citizens against those who did not agree to the neo-Nazi policy pursued by the regime. Media have to resume their activity after having been banned before. What about your question? Yes, getting there. Without these measures, a referendum would only mean legitimizing the criminal regime, basically election without election. Understandably, the criminal regime of Zelensky, with the support of the West, is not going to agree to that. In March this year, you proposed a way out, interim governance in Ukraine under the aegis of the UN, Russia, the US, and European countries, which would create the necessary environment for holding democratic elections. So my question is as follows. Do you stick to that proposal you came up with on temporary governance in Ukraine, international governance? And if no environment is created for these elections, will you recognize the legitimacy of these elections? Well, this is not a question, this is more of a political statement. I'll try to be brief. As far as elections in Ukraine are concerned, as far as international temporary governance is concerned, well, yes, I did suggest that. But it was only a hypothetical. And if the will were there on the side of the Western countries, then probably, given the corruption scandals, it could be a thing to be considered. But as far as elections go, we hear statements from the heads of the regime. They insist that the Western countries and the US, and allegedly they are ready for those elections. Well, Western countries have to ensure security. That means they want a ceasefire. I would like to draw your attention to the following. Well, Russia did hold elections, both presidential elections, municipal elections, and regional elections. In September, Russia held another round of elections. But who ensured security during those elections? Quite the contrary, there were attempts to sabotage those elections with a view to dismantling our internal unity. There were strikes against poll stations, I think that was in Donetsk, People's Republic, people were queuing at the poll station. As shelling started, people went to the shelters, and once the shelling was over, they came back and they cast their ballot. We never demanded anything, we just did what we thought was right. And I think the current representatives of the Kyiv regime could do the same if they truly wanted that. However, if they want to use the elections solely to put an end to Russia's advancement on the battlefield, then they are wrong. That said, I'm gonna say something which is probably gonna sound surprising. We are willing to think about how to ensure security during elections in Ukraine. Well, we could refrain from strikes in the depths of Ukrainian territory on election day. But there is one nuance which we cannot circumvent, namely, in the territory of Russia, there are millions of Ukrainian citizens living from 5 million to 10 million, and they are entitled to vote. And if elections were to be held, we have the right to demand that those who organize these elections should provide the right to cast their ballot to those Ukrainians who are currently residing in the territory of the Russian Federation. There are other nuances that have to be studied laboriously, but this is no idle matter. I do agree that the authorities in Ukraine sooner or later have to become legitimate, and that is impossible without elections. Let's move to this sector, Siberia. Mr. President, good afternoon. Hi, my name is Denis Shaluta. I'm a blogger from Siberia. I've got a TG channel. I cover social, economic news and the development of Siberia. Since October this year, there are rumors circulating around the establishment of a cluster for deep processing of rare earths and non-ferrous metals. Do you think this is the best solution to provide our economy with critical metals and to relaunch Russia's industrialization? Because the prospects are enormous, they're huge. There is a will at the level of the Russian government to complete this project. This is a very interesting project. And, you know, right along the line, these plans were formulated back during the Soviet times. This region is very promising in that it has almost 360 sunny days. Even though it's in Siberia, the climate is very good. And there are huge opportunities to extract minerals and process them. You know, the logistics is very good. Certainly, this cannot be addressed the way it used to be during the Soviet times, you know, through gas plan and through allocating the requisite budgetary resources. That has to be done via modern means.
We need to make companies interested so that they would invest and the state would provide the necessary support. In general, such work in order to implement projects on this promising land is underway. I think it is very promising. We are finding investors, potential companies that could invest, and we need to support them, provide the necessary benefits and services, create logistics as well as the sources for power generation, so on and so forth. I'm not going to give the whole list because this could be a large-scale historical task. We will keep working on it without any doubt. Mail, please. Hello. Good afternoon. Thank you very much for the opportunity to ask a question. Mr. President, you have said repeatedly, you've reminded that the Russian culture is the backbone
является основным, простите.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry about that. Just don't worry. Well, you say that this is the basis for the development of a society. It's important to preserve historical memory and the cultural diversity of Russian peoples. What are the cultural projects and initiatives priority for you personally? And will Russia protect the Russian-speaking people abroad? You spoke about prioritizing. Yes, I spoke about prioritizing the cultural projects. And will Russia protect Russian-speaking people and the Russian language abroad? And the question is, will there be created a program in Russia, a program for people that will be specializing on fighting information war being waged against us by the West? Are we going to create a specialty that will be program for specialists concerning information wars? The next question is about the prestige of the work of teachers. Well, regarding the protection of our compatriots abroad, of course we will work on that, and we are working on it. We'll keep doing that. What I would like to draw attention to is what we're going to do about that. We need to do everything not to make the situation of our compatriots even worse, so we need to be very careful without using aggressive means. As for training information wars experts, well, it's not really combinable. As for the war experts, we have such. We'll keep training them, given that this is the part of improving armed forces. As for the work with the compatriots, in total, this work is underway. We'll continue it. We need to introduce modern instruments so that they would be effective, so that they would be accessible for the consumers. As for the separate, meaningful cultural projects, there are many of them. I would not like to give any specific projects because it creates an unhealthy competition, meaning that we support one projects and do not support the others. But there are such projects, and we will support them. You can be sure of that. VSM Scorist, please. Hello. Well, it was the poster was held by a young man because I'm really tired. I'm from Tatarstan Republic. Well, my colleague from Kazan has already asked a question. Thank you very much for M12. It's really easy to travel from Moscow to Kazan with children, with family, but we always want something more. Well, you understand by my poster, there are a high-speed highway. Is there any chance that our children would use it? Are you speaking about the high-speed railway? Yes. Yes, we are already working on design. For instance, St. Petersburg-Moscow railway, and we're also going to implement the Moscow-Kazan project. Thank you very much for our joint work. Thank you. Mr. Putin, colleagues, there is a very important piece of news from Brussels. There was the failure, it was a real failure to take their assets. They cannot steal them, but they're trying, but still they cannot do this. Well, stealing is not a really correct definition for that. Stealing, this is when someone is doing it secretly, and they are doing it openly. This is a robbery. This is a robbery. Why they fail to do this? Why they fail to implement this robbery? Because the consequences can be really harsh for the robbers. Why is that? It's really hard to do that, because they declare that they're not going to rob it, to take it. The idea is to make a credit using our assets, but you cannot just give out a loan. This will make consequences for the budget of a country, and it increases the budget debt of every country. If someone gives a loan, even secured by our foreign assets, it must be reflected in the budget of a country that does it.
For example, in France, the public debt is 120%, and ours is at 17%. And our budget deficit is 2.6%. Next year is going to be 1.6%. In France, it is 6% per annum. So, and now they will assume additional liabilities, and it will be quite hard to pass such a budget. And all these are the reasons for the difficulty of taking decisions related to the robbery of someone else's assets, but there will be graver consequences for those who might endeavor that. This will not be a blow to their image, but this will subvert all the confidence with the euro area. Actually, very many countries store their foreign reserves in the Eurozone. Many of those having spare money, like the oil-producing countries, if they have a look at what might be happening, they will have doubts, and they already have doubts and concerns. But what if this happens? You know, well begun, it can be further replicated, they might think. Now, some people dislike the conduct of the special military operation and the fight against neo-Nazism in Ukraine. And next, someone might not like the fight, the struggle with the LGBT movement. And Muslim countries have stringent laws to this respect, and this might be another pretext for the alleged expropriation of sovereign assets. Why not? And they might find other pretexts. So that will entail image-related losses and direct financial monetary losses related to the contemporary financial architecture. And the main thing is, no matter what they steal, sooner or later they'll have to give it back. And most importantly, we will go to courts to protect our interests. We will do our utmost to find a jurisdiction that will be independent from the political context. Let's come to the room and ask questions from the hall. The road of life, I see the sign. Good day, Vladimir Vladimirovich. I'm from the Cominform, the Republic of Komi media outlet. And you know that a big chunk of the Republic of Komi and the Nenets Autonomous District are cut off from the mainland. There is no direct automobile transportation and connection. So there's a dead end of the automobile road, but at the same time, the Mar trunk road spanning more than 600 kilometers, going through our Republic, and that provides for all the year-round procurement for the north and safe traffic for the northern residents. But the bulk of that segment, the biggest part of this segment is in a very deplorable state, and we lack regional funds to repair this road. And Komi has very few federal roads, unlike other regions of Russia. So the proposal, whether this road of life, the only trunk way for the north, can be transferred to the federal property, so that the safe and secure communication with the north is safeguarded. And using this opportunity, I'd like to invite you to the Republic of Komi. In the 2029, the city of Buchta will mark 100th anniversary. Today, it's the biggest oil and gas center in the north of Russia, and shortly Syktyvkar will mark 250 years thanks to your decree. And if you are able to come to the festivities, we will be so grateful. It's going to be a historic and landmark visit for us. Well, thank you for the invitation. With respect to the road, I'm aware of this problem. Indeed, transferring all the segments of that trunk road to the federal level, as there is a task of raising all federal trunk roads to certain quality standards, and this is almost complete. And now we are tackling the regional roads quality, but it can be broken down into several sub-issues: the northern procurement and the safety, traffic and road safety. So I cannot promise that we're going to start right away tomorrow, but I'll talk to the government and we'll find a way to respond and react. But thank you for the invitation. Mr. President, yes. So it's a combined format, it's a hybrid format, so we will ask questions, we'll receive questions from different sources. Channel 1, the third row, this is our front correspondent. I'm Ilya Supov, war correspondent from Channel 1. I have 3 questions, hope to be succinct. First is from the battlefield drone operators. All of them thank you for the big number of the assault drones. Some of them can stop columns like Prince Vandal of Nizhny Novgorod, but we actually lack hexacopters, the Baba Yaga type. They are used actively in droves by Ukrainians, and we need those too, this type too, because the sky is dominated by the drones, and it's even used to carry a bottle of water. So the guys are agog to receive those. And the second question is from the operators, and one of the guys in the trenches told me a baby will be born shortly in my family. Will you miss the front line? I asked him. Yes, I will. And he will miss the control of the UAVs, actually. So we have lots of UAV operators, and their number is increasing, and they also want to continue doing that in peaceful life, as being civilians. Will that come in handy? Will their experience and expertise come in handy? And the final question is from me. We work with a brigade of veterans who are knowledgeable for their underground operations, subterranean subway operations, Avdiivka, Dzержinsk, and others. But this brigade, despite all the merits, is called like a voluntary group in many reports of the Defense Ministry. If I may, will you please assign this brigade the name of Guards Brigade, Brigade of Guards, the honorary name? Thank you. I'll start with your final point. The Brigade of Veterans deserves the highest assessments, and they are heroes. But it's not only about risking lives and going through a tube The point is that they are meticulous and hair-splitting and responsible in preparing each operation of theirs. And a lot of preparations were done with all the driveways and procurement and exit points and enter points. These are heroes, no doubt. And this brigade deserves the highest assessments, and it should be granted the name of a Guards Brigade. I agree with you. Secondly, the point that you started with, that about control of drones, we are lacking heavy UAVs, and this is what the defense ministry and the defense industry are getting to grips with, and the defense minister personally has been looking into the matter, and he has done a lot, and thanks to him, to a large extent, the situation with drones has considerably improved, and the guys on the contact line now feel that, and will keep supporting our contemporary inventors with a system of grants and support measures. And I'd like to thank our caring people and entrepreneurs. They have collected 83 billion rubles of donations, and that was spent on different things, but to a large extent on drones. I must say directly and frankly, one shouldn't shy that, we have become leaders. We still lack those heavy drones like Baba Yaga type, but with respect to the number of drones, we are ahead of our adversary on all the segments of the front line. This is an obvious fact, a hard fact. Now, with respect to the civil life application, in order to confirm this leadership, well, this can be confirmed actually only if those items used in fighting will be applied in civilian, in peaceful life, and it will also be used in, there will be the dual use of these items to improve the combat efficiency of our country, and all the delivery of mail and medicines and food will be conducted with the help of UAVs like the airplane type or small copters, air-based ones. I'm speaking about the UAVs in general, airborne and seaborne, and we are making big headway in this respect, and this will have the support of the government in future. Now, with respect to the fighters on the front line that want to continue doing what they have been doing, well, this is a peculiar thing, because the point is that we continue a good rate of manning, and now we have a lot of volunteers that want to volunteer to the front, conclude contracts to join the army, and they volunteer to defend their motherland and the interests of our people. We just mentioned how the Ukrainian military treat the civilians, and a person told me, when we saw what they did to civilians, we just are agog. We're impatient to move on and finish off this viper. They execute old people, elderly, and they use helicopters to do that, to target civilians, actually. He might be shy because it's the first time that he ends up in such an audience. And more than 400,000, 406 or 10,000 people have enrolled, concluding a contract, and the number of people who want to do service in this new branch of the army, the unmanned aerial systems branch, is so big that the defense ministry has to open a call for that. And there are students, young ones, who take an academic leave to sign a contract and join the army, and they participate. They are eager to participate in this competition, and they want to participate as drone operators. So I can understand the person that you spoke to, but actually even those who come on leave, come home on leave, they continue participating in the fighting because the remote technology allows that. And to follow up on the fighters topic, you said, Mr. President, that it's not a trendy phenomenon, but it's the obligation of the government. So, and we looked through a lot of applications. Paul and I looked through a lot of applications, and GigaChat confirms that this year the number of applications from the fighters and their families is much lower than in the previous year or the penultimate year. So work is underway to assist them, to help them. Still some problems remaining related to delays and the search for the missing. Still a lot is done just in a matter of days. For example, Alexei Gushin from the Lov region wrote to us he was gravely wounded 2 years ago, and he wasn't able to receive a payout of 3 million because not all the documents were available. And finally, the amount was accrued. And one of these days he is to receive the full amount. And the mother of a fallen hero, Ludmila Orlova from Beloretsk, said that her son lost his life last year and was posthumously decorated with a medal, but she could not receive this medal. And finally, the volunteers looked into the matter, and now the mother has received her son's posthumous decoration. And she tried to get it for a year, and only after caring, attentive, and thoughtful people attended to that, this was resolved. And just yesterday or the day before yesterday, you said at the Defense Ministry College that there is still room for advancement. And now we'll have a look at a video from Kristina from Novosibirsk. Good afternoon. My name is Grebe Kristina. I'm a widow of a fallen serviceman. We live in the city of Novosibirsk, and there are 2 kids left of 4 and 6 years of age. So the question is, currently I would not receive the pension of a fallen serviceman and other benefits. My husband lost his life in January 2024. On the 10th of December that year, I received the death certificate. And, a year passed since then, and we're yet lacking this pension. Can the timeline for consideration of these applications be expedited, so that the pension on the grounds of a loss of the breadwinner is allotted on time, should be allotted on time? Christine, first of all, I want to apologize to you for this huge delay of the relevant services, on the part of the relevant services, and in your case it's going to be resolved quickly. But the problem is in existence, and not long ago I had a meeting with Madam Tsivilova Anna, who reported me on the work of the Fund of Fatherland Defenders, and she's Deputy Defense Minister now, and she has told me that still proper interaction between the Defense Ministry and the welfare unit of the government is not properly established, and there is a lot of red tape, and documents are lost while being transferred from one agency to another, and decisions are delayed and postponed, but we will work on that to expedite the thing. I will definitely keep track of that personally. I'll look into this issue. We should be swifter and quicker so that rid people of additional difficulties, like in your case, when they have 2 kids left after the tragedy. But there's also another issue pending, which is obvious from some of the questions received via various channels, and Mr. Peskov has handed me a file full of such questions and applications, the search for the missing servicemen, and in the case of Christina, I hope the problem she's faced with is going to be resolved quite quickly without any procrastination.
Now, as for the search for missing in action, this is a topic of particular relevance, and I have to tell you that the Ministry of Defense has taken several steps with a view to addressing this problem. To be more precise, a coordinated center has been set up, which is charged with searching for the servicemen missing in action. Special units have been established in relevant units and groups. A special registry has been set up as well. And if we look at the beginning of the year and at how things stand today, we'll see that the number of those who were thought to be missing in action has decreased by 50% as compared to the beginning of the year. So there is a 3-time difference. Of course, this work has to continue and it has to be improved. Rest assured, we'll do everything to make sure that the losses are brought down to a minimum. Mr. President, the issue of MIIs is very important. I know that even among our colleagues, journalists, there are family, close friends who were participating in the SMO and who were considered to be MIIs. I think everyone will support you if we'll ask you to give an instruction to make sure that there is a special control, special surveillance of the issues from family. We have to remember about the issue of those who are missing in action and those who have been taken prisoner. Well, the instructions are there, and we're working together with the Ministry of Defense. Let's work with the audience. A couple of questions, several questions from the room, from the audience. Third row of this section, I think the Mir TV company. Yes, the lady in red. Thank you, Mr. Peskov. Good afternoon, Mr. President. Elena Dashkova, Mir TV channel. The issue of phone fraudsters is very acute. What about the measures taken by the government? Have they worked? Do you have any statistics on how we've managed to bring down a number of citizens who've been defrauded by these fraudsters? Yes, we've got some statistics. These measures have worked, they've yielded some results, and I think a lot has and should be done to address this issue. The number of such crimes has decreased by 7%, as the Ministry of the Interior has briefed me, and the losses have decreased by 33%. On the whole, there are some positive results. but I would like to address the citizens of the country. Fraud is still very much an issue. And the more sophisticated our devices are getting, the more sophisticated our life is becoming. Fraudsters are becoming increasingly sophisticated in their turn in the ways they use to defraud the citizens and to swindle them and take their money. So whoever talks to you, whoever is calling you, and given the AI capabilities, if someone starts talking to you about money, about property, just put down the phone. Just put down the phone right away. If someone is talking to you about property or money, not a single word. If banks, or there's someone personally, if you want to address an issue, just go in person, see someone from the bank. I would like to ask you not to talk about money or property on the phone. More questions from the room. I would like to ask the journalists to be as succinct as possible. Yes, we see a young man here, young gentleman, Children's Editorial Office. Good afternoon, Mr. President. My name is Maxim Zakharov. I'm with the Children's Editorial Office. Recently, you said that sometimes you drive a car across Moscow streets incognito. And when you speak at meetings or right now, you are in possession of a treasure trove of information. I would like to ask you how you get this information about what people really need. Well, I didn't say that exactly like that I drive incognito, that I drive myself. I'm just saying that sometimes I drive without the accompanying police cars and all that. And, these voyages, as it were, are useful